Mr. O'Neill, what's your relationship with the project?
I am the owner and developer of the project.
Is this your first project in Conshohocken?
No.
What was your first project in Conshohocken?
My first project in Conshohocken was lead time.
How long ago was that?
Over 30 years ago.
What did the lead tire project consist of?
Lee Tire was a tire manufacturer, one of the two major employers in Conshohocken at the time. Both closed within a couple of years, creating substantial unemployment in town. And when we bought it, it was an 800,000 square foot used and somewhat contaminated factory and office building.
When lead tire closed, who was the largest employer in the two boroughs, West and regular Conshohocken?
When the two plants closed, my father's restaurant was the largest employer in the boroughs.
How much did you invest when you purchased lead tire?
Mr. Campbell, no disrespect intended, but it's 9:30. We have another conditional use hearing on your other project this evening. Unless this is relevant directly to the requirements of the plan with the sell bill, I'm going to ask you to get to the point. We don't need a history of 30
Let's
years.
summarize 3 points, which are relevant. First, our interest in the well-being of the residents and firemen that work in this town. We have been supporting the fire companies in this town for 30 years. We bought a truck for Spring Mill. We supported the Firemen's Convention. We've been available for everything that anyone's ever asked us to do. And we take the safety of the firemen very, very seriously, as well as their ability to maneuver their trucks. Second, on life safety, we had a fire, which many of you are aware of. We had a fire consultant on that job, as we do on this job. We had strobe lights, fully sprinklered, full alarm system, access, and thank God we were able to get every resident and every dog and cat safely out of that building with the help of the local fire companies, which I will ever be grateful for. So I want to point out that we do not take the easy way out on fire safety. Along those lines, after Mr. Zinni's comment, we reviewed all the codes, and we will be proposing as part of our plan to widen the access roads to 26 feet and widen Washington Street. And also, I'm very familiar with the system that's being proposed on the trail. We've used it often here and in New England, both on oceanfront property as well as riverfront property. And we have used it in the floodplain, and it absolutely works, which is why we chose it. And it's not an inexpensive system, it's an expensive system. But it allows water to permeate into the ground and the lawn, and so you can have an aesthetic trail front and at the same time structural support. And we'll give you every bit of engineering backup that you'd like, any engineering backup to support that. We are not opposed to whatever you'd like to prove that that system works.
Mr. O'Neill, what's the alternative if White Marsh does not approve that system? How do you propose to modify the fire access?
We are convinced that White Marsh will approve that access, having gone through it at Lower Merion. And it is the commonly used product for trail situations like this.
Okay, but what if they don't?
Well, Mike, respectfully, we'll come up with another solution if they don't.
What about the turnaround in the center of the driveway?
We looked at that today, and actually what's requested is a hammerhead, and we intend to comply with that request.
What's a hammerhead?
So a hammerhead is where a road comes to an intersection and enables a truck to take a right or a left. And so it forms a T like the shark hammerhead. which enables a truck to easily access either direction.
So we can do a U-turn.
It's actually not a
It's a turnaround.
U-turn. It actually allows the truck to come down and go right or left. And it's,
It gives them the turnaround moment. The center lane of travel is greater than 150 feet, so the code requires one of a variety of alternatives in order to facilitate the truck turning around and not have to back up the greater distance.
So that just for clarification, the hammerhead design would, or connecting to the trail, so that you could drive all the way through and not have to do the Cape turn motion.
Well, the reason I asked is neither of them are depicted on the plan, so I just wanted to
that's
clarify.
because the comments were brought to our attention 4 days ago, and those plans, as you're aware, Counselor, were submitted to you months ago.
Code's been in place for years.
So you didn't expect Zinni Company to have any feedback on this?
No, we absolutely expect them to have feedback. We actually met with the fire marshal, and those were not his comments at the time that we met. We incorporated 100% of his comments following that meeting into our plans. And when we got subsequent comments from the fire marshal, we sat down and we're incorporating 100% of those comments without exception.
Oh, your comment only 4 days ago.
We had
I'm surprised you didn't know this would be coming.
Mr. Chairman, we had a meeting at Borough Hall for the purpose of reviewing fire code requirements with the fire marshal. The comments that were provided to us 4 days ago were not provided to us in that meeting. Every comment that was provided to us in that meeting was incorporated into our plans, and the moment the subsequent comments were provided to us, those have been incorporated into our plan. The second point I'd like to make is to review the history of the waterfront sites that are under consideration. The first site was the CD battery site. CD battery used lead, acid, and other contaminants. When they were talking about moving out of the borough, we were contacted by the borough because of our expertise in cleaning up contaminated sites, and a request was made that we consider purchasing that property. We entered into negotiations, which took over 2 years, with CD battery. We spent millions of dollars investigating that site, acquiring that site, demolishing that site, remediating the environmental on that site. At the time that it was requested that we buy that site, there was a comprehensive plan in place and a discussion about principles that we would utilize in our development activities. First, that we would not compete with the merchants of Conshohocken, but would supply customers to those merchants. Second, that we would balance office space with residential space, both on our properties and globally within the borough of Conshohocken. Currently, there's millions of square feet of office space, and even today, with the proposed residential developments, there is an imbalance of residential availability versus office space. Specifically, thousands of jobs have been added to the borough of Conshohocken, and I know that it's not fair to expect some of the newcomers in town to understand what it was like when unemployment was in the high 20% range. Fayette Street was loaded with trash, and half the stores were empty. But at the time we bought these properties, employment was a big deal. And as the employment began to grow, a need for residential housing for those employees and other folks who wanted to live here, as well as policemen, firemen, teachers, and other people who wanted to have rental housing, became a need, which is how we arrived at that zoning for those properties. And it was done in this room, in cooperation with this borough. The 100-foot park area and the riverfront trails that are there today were suggested by us to this very body. Never requested, suggested. It's now a requirement, and we're all for it. The boathouse that's being built was suggested by us to this body. We were laughed at in the early meetings, but we persevered. So our plan is a plan that has received much commentary. We have agreed, without exception, to every comment we've received, without exception. And I want to go on the record, except for some of the items that were in front of the zoning hearing board for, and they'll rule whether they agree with us or not. Just a handful of other points that I think are important to this conversation. Mr. Chairman, you published a blog which indicated that potentially developer hired traffic engineering studies were myopic. I just wish to go on record to tell you that we've always done everything by the book, that our traffic engineers were instructed to do their study by the book, and just to underscore that, we compared our study to the study that was commissioned by the Borough of Conshohocken, and the findings are virtually identical. In closing, I'm going to ask for your vote tonight. I've been investing in Conshohocken for 30 years. It looks easy now that everybody is successful, that there's a surplus in the borough, that the stores are full, and the residential is valuable. But when we started, we didn't have a blue route, we didn't have a bridge. The bridge that's here, we had an older bridge. The houses on Hector Street were a few $1,000s, and you had to take a leap of faith. So here we are now, having invested for 30 years. We're agreeing to everything you've asked us to do. We're agreeing to contribute to the traffic plan. We've contributed to every single situation that's been brought to our attention. We paid for the library, we supported St. Matt's, supported the fire departments, supported Little Leagues, supported the cheerleading squad when they needed to go to a competition and didn't have the money. And we need this vote because we need to build this project. We have tens of millions of dollars of debt on this project. We've worked hard to make this street a place where projects would be viable. And now we're asking, and I'm asking, that you see it in your heart to approve my plan tonight. And I would appreciate that very much. And I assure you I will not let you down if you do. Lastly, if there's any other tests on this fire lane out front that you'd like us to conduct that we haven't thought about or mentioned, just let us know and we'll be happy to do that. Thank you very much for your